We are on chapter 32 of book number 1, A Healing in Jesus' Name. The morning sun shone brightly through one of the large picture windows of the front room. Eric lounged on one of the couches with Justin, contracts scattered across the coffee table in front of them. Ricky and Jason occupied the adjacent sofa, noisily arguing over which baseball team would make it to the World Series this year. Jason's phone buzzed. "This is Jason." He listened intently, confused by the information. "Yes. Has his wife been contacted?" "Okay." "Yes. Stay with him until she gets there." "What's going on?" Justin asked. Jason held up a finger and made a call. "Jerry, you were at the Keno's house yesterday when Ms. Adams got home?" "Okay." "And did you notice anything strange about the driver?" Jason frowned. Ricky looked down at his phone as it buzzed. He got up to look out the front window as he answered. Jason finished his call and looked up. "The driver I sent to pick up Shelley yesterday was attacked, drugged, and stuffed in his trunk. He made it out a little while ago. He's at the hospital." "Then who picked up Shelley and brought her home?" "Good question. One we need to ask Shelley. Jerry says the driver didn't bring her up to the house. He says Shelley asked him to let her out at the gate so she could enjoy the walk." The doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Ricky announced. "It's a courier. I just buzzed him through the gate." Ricky signed for the package and handed it to his father. Eric opened the envelope. "That's strange. It's a DVD." He turned it over in his hands, and there's no label. A feeling of dread crept into his heart. He reached in carefully and pulled out a typewritten page, which he read aloud. "I'm sure the little woman didn't tell you about the second photo shoot she attended yesterday, so I've sent you a copy. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed making it." Drawing a deep breath, Eric opened the large wooden cabinet and placed the disc into a DVD access drive. "Eric, old friend, I trust you're having a lovely day. As I speak, I am on my way to pick up your girl from her photo shoot. She and I have a date." He laughed. "I'm sure you'll find this interesting, even though it will never make up for the way you took Anne from me." New scene. Shelley rose late. She hadn't slept well. She decided, however, she wouldn't feel sorry for herself a moment longer. She pulled on a pair of blue jeans and a shirt with an Oxford collar that she thought would hide the bruises and the small cut on her throat. Taking one last glance in the mirror, she practiced a smile, inhaled deeply, and left her room. She came down the back stairs into the dining room, and glancing at the polished wood of the dining room table with breakfast sitting there waiting for her, a smile came to her lips, regardless of her mood. Even so, the quick lightness was overshadowed immediately by the darker memory. She shook her head to clear her mind and turned with a smile toward the men in the living room, but their behavior was odd. Eric and the others were there, locked in a frozen stare. They didn't blink, they didn't move, they were watching the television. It only took about 15 more seconds before she recognized the sounds and realized what it was they were watching. Trembling, she backed up and leaned against the wall for support. As she listened to James's voice, her stomach began to churn. She looked up the steps thinking she'd just head back to her room and lock herself in the bathroom. She heard herself beg James to stop and felt ashamed. She couldn't resist peeking in at Eric. He showed no emotion, which she'd come to realize was a bad sign. At the mention of Anne's name, all 4 of the men's bodies shifted slightly, as if they'd each experienced the same shooting pain, a direct hit through their hearts. It seemed surreal to hear the scuffle after she'd bitten James and listened to what could have been her own murder. And finally it was over. The room was utterly silent except for Shelley as she drew a deep breath to try to calm herself. Only then did they realize that she'd come downstairs. Eric stood and went to her and took her hands. Softly, compassionately, he touched her cheek and then slowly moved to unbutton her top button. She tried to stop him. Gently, he removed her hand from his and opened her shirt collar. It was as if he couldn't believe it was really her on the video, yet there were the bruises and a thin cut on her throat, clearly visible. She stood trembling, waiting for someone to say something. There was a loud roar right before Jason's fist came down on the coffee table in front of him, cracking it down the center. Shelley literally leapt off the floor. Eric looked deep into her eyes and opened his mouth to speak and found he couldn't. For the first time, he couldn't find the right words to say. Once again, he'd failed to protect her, and an apology wouldn't get it. He knew she needed comfort, and he wanted to comfort her, but the intense rage he felt was strangling him. He needed to get it under control. He needed time to neatly organize his emotions, put them in the proper place. Anne. Anne had suffered at this man's hands. How many times? And why hadn't she told him? Why? So many emotions shot through his mind. Shelley. My sweet Shelley. Since she'd met him, she had experienced one atrocity after another. He'd brought everything on her. Hatred, rage, blinding fury. He had to get it under control. Anne. Why had she not confided in him? He'd been her husband, for God's sake, and Shelley. She'd intended to hide the truth as well. Why? But the answer came quickly, because James played on their love for him. Finally, he broke the deafening silence with a few ridiculously mumbled words. Shelley, I am sorry, baby. Are you okay? Are you okay? Of course she's not okay, he thought. But she made it okay. She wrapped her arms around him. Just hold me, Eric, and I'll be fine. Eric nodded at Justin and Jason. We're on it, Jason stated. Justin retrieved the disc and the package it came in. He and Jason headed toward the door. James had blocked out his own face, but the voice should be enough. His wits beginning to return to him, Eric turned back to Shelley. I am so sorry this happened. He paused. So this is why you were sick last night? She nodded. He tilted her face up. The memory will fade, Shelley, I promise. Soon you'll never have to think or worry about James again. Are you angry with me? With you? No, of course not. Why would you ask such a thing? Because I didn't tell you? Well, you didn't tell me because he toyed with your mind, Shelley. He made you afraid to come to me. She buried her face against his chest. I'm sorry, Eric. I should have told you. I should have trusted you to do the right thing. It's okay. Shh, he comforted. It's okay. I keep saying that, don't I? Like if I say it enough, that will make it true. He stood back and shook his head. I haven't been there for you. It's like, I don't know, like I've had blinders on. Why couldn't I see what he's capable of? No, don't say that, Eric. It's hard to comprehend that kind of darkness and know what he's thinking, and you can't stay by my side 24 hours a day. She looked up at him, smiling timorously through her tears. And it really is okay, isn't it? He shook his head. How can you say that? Because it is. So, he hurt me physically, but he didn't control me, did he? I'm not saying he didn't scare me. He did, but I didn't freeze up this time, did I? I acted. I did what I could to take control of the situation. And I know that sounds dumb because what I did really made him mad and almost caused my death. Taking her lead, though, Eric joined the positive thinking. But it didn't cause your death, did it? What you did changed the course of what was to come. And yes, baby, you acted. You took matters into your own hands and you changed the outcome, and you didn't die. For whatever reason, he stopped himself. His meeting with you didn't turn out like he'd planned, and that was because of your intervention. And I prayed. He smiled. You did? Yes, and God helped me. She sighed. Eric, I don't feel like such a victim anymore. I know it's kind of strange, and I should be falling apart right now, but I'm not. Last night, I admit I did fall apart for a minute, but now I feel sort of brave, or maybe even strong. I'm not really sure if those are the right words. Oh, you are strong, Shelley, and I am so very proud of you. New scene. Over the next few weeks, the memories faded. Eric and Shelley decided to not waste any more time and then get married quickly. When Eric suggested he fly everyone to Hawaii and marry in his parents' hometown at the church he'd attended as a kid, Shelley was ecstatic. Bree and the boys were also pretty psyched. And for the next week, Shelley kept busy with business meetings concerning her career, making wedding plans with Bree, and wandering through the house, deciding where she'd make changes once they came back. They decided to live in Eric's home in California, of course, but hold on to Shelley's little house to use whenever they traveled to Georgia. Shelley met Rosa, the Kenos occasionally. Start over. Shelley met Rosa, the Kenos' occasional housekeeper, and they became fast friends. With Rosa and Angel and Bree helping, the wedding arrangements were quickly made, and they would be husband and wife before the end of June. The night before their flight to Kauai, the family gathered around the giant dining room table. Eric and Shelley, Ricky and Bree, Mark and Joey, Justin and Jason. They just finished a delicious dinner that Rosa had insisted on preparing. The candles flickered as they sat talking, delighting in each other's company. They told stories by candlelight and relived memories and spoke of their hopes and dreams. Shelley sat listening to her children, her friends, and the man she loved. They each had interests and aspirations for which they reached. She just accomplished a huge goal and felt like she couldn't be any happier. Eric caught her eye, though, and winked. Realizing they'd been leaving Shelley out, he asked her, "So tell me, Shelley girl, what are your goals, or what sort of things do you hope for yourself?" She shook her head. "Oh, I've been given all that I need." "Aw, come on," Mark said. "Think of something, Mom." She shrugged. "No, really, I mean, I mean it. If all of your wishes come true, then that will be enough." "Come on, Shelley, there must be something else," Ricky prodded. Justin tugged on her hair. "Yeah, Shelley, what do you hope for?" She only shrugged. "Mom, you're going to have to think of something," Bree said. "Yeah, Mom," Mark and Joey, Jason and Ricky all chimed in at the same time. Okay. Let's see. "I hope all four of my children," she said, winking at Ricky, and then stopped. 4 children. Good grief, I suddenly feel so old. Eric squeezed her hand. "Age is relative. Now, tell us, babe, what do you hope for the children?" She sighed. "I hope they grow up healthy and happy, of course." "What else?" Ricky prodded. "Something for you." I hope I do well at the promotional appearances next week." Justin laughed. "Well, I know 3 other men in particular who hope the very same thing." "You'll be great," Ricky added. "I'll help you." "Well, there must be something more than that," Jason said. She thought a moment. "Well, I hope Eric's parents like me, and the rest of his family, too." "Well, I guarantee," Eric said with a smile, "that they'll either really love you as I do or hate you with the same passion. It doesn't matter which one, because I'm going to marry you no matter what." "Oh, gee, that's really comforting, Eric. And maybe on the way to Hawaii, our plane won't crash. And if it does, maybe the sharks won't eat us. But hey, if they do, at least there won't have to be a funeral." "That's the way to think positive," Eric laughed. New scene. As it turned out, Shelley had no reason to be nervous about meeting Eric's family. His parents loved her as he knew they would. His cousins were also very welcoming. The wedding was simple yet beautiful. Shelley's dress was white and flowy. There was no veil, but she wore flowers in her hair. Eric wore white slacks and a traditional flowered Hawaiian shirt. They spoke vows before family and God and felt his presence in all they did that day. There was a giant reception back at the Keno plantation, filled with much revelry, decadent foods, robust music, and love. The giant barn had been the venue of many island events over the years. It was decorated beautifully with every kind of flower possible. Food was abundant, drink was flowing, music was blasting. Eric's female cousins and their daughters and a few others performed a beautiful hula. Eric's male cousins and their sons thrilled everyone with their hula cane. Shelley was having so much fun and loving their culture. Even with all that, though, she couldn't wait to get to their cabins and celebrate their love. Fortunately, Eric was feeling the same way. He approached her and pulled her away from her current dance partner, one of his uncles, and wrapping his arms around her waist, he leaned close and whispered, "Shelley Keno, my love, would you like to accompany me to the wedding cabin?" She smiled prettily. "Oh, I would love to." Eric said his goodbyes to his father and mother and uncles and aunts and cousins and nodded at Ricky, who had Bree in his arms at the moment, and shook hands with his friends. He waited at the door while Shelley hugged her boys and made sure Bree knew that she had current custody of them. Eric held his hand out to Shelley as she approached and clasped it tightly and pulled her out the door. They'd made it, Eric thought. He'd wanted her all year. He wanted to make love to her so badly, but he also wanted God's blessing on their union. It'd been difficult. The road had not only been peppered with obstacles, but strewn with temptations. Yet they'd made it. And now he was able to take his new bride back to the cabin and make love to her the way God had intended under the covenant of marriage. This waiting made everything more beautiful, and his heart was filled with love and gratitude for his bride, for his Savior, and for the wisdom of God. And now he would share himself, his secrets, with the woman he vowed to love forever, secrets he'd shared with only one other woman. The union between a man and a woman, the beautiful give and take, the sharing of love and closeness and trust and intimacy and pleasure. It was a beautiful thing. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. New scene. A week later, they had returned from the island and begun a new life of wedded bliss. Shelley was given free rein to decorate and renovate and rearrange anything she wanted to suit her fancy. She began on the boys' room, helped Bree with her room, though she wouldn't be there often because of school, and she started on her and Eric's bedroom. Unfortunately, there seemed to be a problem that started shortly after their return. Shelley was struggling, Eric thought, with the memories of the violence that she'd suffered over the past year. Physically, it appeared she was doing fine, yet Eric knew inside her mind was a different story, because every time a memory surfaced, she was overwhelmed with nausea. She was losing weight. She got to the point where she couldn't keep anything down. She'd eat a huge breakfast and see the tiny scar on her neck and immediately run to the bathroom, or cut into an apple and look at the knife in her hand and throw up in the sink. Eric could only hope that once James was found, she'd be able to put things behind her. He asked her to see Dr. Chin, Eric's teacher and friend, and she refused at first, but finally conceded. The problem there was Dr. Chin's findings were less than comforting. Well, she's emotionally healthy, Eric. She's strong. I think you've helped her become extremely well-adjusted. She's handling her feelings normally. Have you stopped to think maybe her problem is physical? Nonsense, Shelley snapped. I'm healthy as a horse. Eric heaved a sigh. She hated doctors. He wouldn't push it yet, but if she didn't improve soon, that would be the next step. That little edgy feeling in his brain began to churn. Was she ill with something more serious? And would God take his wife again? It wasn't long after her meeting with Dr. Chin that Jason brought them good news. James had been found and arrested, not without a fight, much to Jason's pleasure. Shelley seemed pleased. Eric and Ricky definitely were. Still, the news didn't have much effect on her illness, and less than a week later, Shelley collapsed as she came out of the bathroom from one of her bouts. At the medical center, Eric stood impatiently in a corner of the large emergency waiting room, breathing a sigh of relief that the wait was over when the nurse approached him. Mr. Keno, the young woman smiled at him. The doctor would like to see you. He followed her to a small office where he shook hands with a short, rotund man. How is she? He asked. Well, we're giving her fluids through an IV right now. Considering she hasn't been able to eat for several days, she's doing remarkably well. Her collapse was caused from lack of food and dehydration. The nausea is usual for her condition. Some women have a harder time than others. Excuse me, Eric said. What condition? The doctor frowned. Well, she's expecting. Expecting? Expecting what? A baby, of course. She's pregnant. Eric shook his head. No, she can't be. That means she must be sick with something else. Please run some tests, because she can't be pregnant. She had her tubes tied years ago. Oh, yes, I saw that. Nevertheless, she is pregnant. He shrugged. It's been known to happen. There's about a 1.5% rate of women who become pregnant after a tubal ligation, if you're interested in the statistics. I'd like to schedule her for an ultrasound to make sure it's not an ectopic pregnancy. Eric shook his head in amazement. A baby. She carries my child. The doctor nodded and smiled. I'd like to keep her overnight, make sure she's completely hydrated. I'm sure you'll want to get her your own doctor and speak with him about all the possibilities, but I can probably get her ultrasound out of the way in the morning. Does she know? Eric asked. Yes, she does. And what was her reaction? She accused me of being a quack. That's my Shelley. New scene. Eric sighed heavily as he stood in the doorway of Shelley's hospital room, watching the early morning light play across her face. In the expanse of 1 year, Shelley had been in the hospital so many times that he'd actually lost count. His eyes closed. A baby. He'd never even thought something so wonderful to be possible. It had been one rough year, a year that was meant to be, and God meant Eric to find Shelley. He brought them together, and now there is a miracle of a baby. Hopefully everything will settle down now. He longed for the peace and calm of a normal family. Was that even possible? A normal family? There was definitely nothing normal about living with Shelley. Eric took her hand and watched her eyes flutter open. Hello there. Hi. How do you feel? She closed her eyes. Like I could sleep forever. He kissed her fingers. Well, you can sleep as long as you like, because I'm taking you home very soon. It wasn't long before they came to get her for the ultrasound, confirming she did have an intrauterine pregnancy. They rode quietly home, each with their own thoughts. Shelley hadn't said anything about the baby, and Eric wondered if she wasn't happy about it. Well, they certainly had to discuss it. So, he began, you're pregnant. Her hand touched her stomach protectively. It seems I am. Why haven't you said anything about the baby? She asked. I was giving you space. Are you upset that I'm pregnant? Upset? I'm euphoric. Shelley breathed a sigh of relief. Well, that's good. Because the only alternative would be to end the pregnancy, and I would never do that. Life is a beautiful miracle. A child is a beautiful miracle, and I would never kill a baby. And since we've never discussed this topic, I was worried that the marriage would end before it ever got started. Shelley, you know my beliefs. You know I try to follow God's laws, and I realize that you haven't read the Bible through yet, but I can tell you, the Lord despises the killing of innocent children, and so do I. I'm very happy to hear that you want this child. Wait, you didn't actually say that. You do want the child, he asked. Oh, Eric, with all my heart, she replied. How can you even ask that? I carry your child, yours, a little golden-skinned child that will look like you. Just the fact that I'm pregnant is a miracle. It feels like it was meant to be. That's what I think anyway. I mean, it must be a very special baby. There's nothing that would make me happier than to give you a child, another child. I love you so much, Eric. New scene. Emotionally and physically, Shelley began to recover. With Eric's knowledge of herbs, she began to keep food down. Eric doted on her, taking care of her every need. Shelley was already getting ideas about how she would decorate the nursery, using the room that she'd occupied when she'd first arrived in Cali. They spoke to Mark and Joey about the baby over the phone since the boys were with their father, but the two youngsters had already been uprooted from the only home they'd known and from their friends at school, but as usual, they seemed to take it all in stride. Next, they told Bree, who was about to leave for New York. She, too, was happy for them, yet a little concerned about her mother carrying a baby. As expected, Ricky was only too happy to share the home in which he'd grown up with Shelley, Bree, the boys, and especially the baby. Actually, he totally freaked when he was told about the baby. Shelley's eyes had filled with tears as she listened to his loud and contagious enthusiasm. Oh, Lord, thank you, Jesus. Shelley, you're pregnant? I can't believe it. I am so happy. You're going to have my father's child. This is wonderful. Oh, man. A baby? Shelley laughed as Ricky dropped down onto his knees in front of her and hugged her. He laid his head on her knees and touched her stomach. A baby, he whispered. My brother or sister, he put in quickly. Shelley, listen. Anything you need or want is yours. You just say the word, Ricky promised. It was only a few weeks later, as Eric and Shelley stretched for their morning run, that Shelley announced that she was going to Atlanta. Atlanta? Eric asked. Yes, my love, I need to pack things for storage and finish packing mine and the children's things to move here, except for Bree. She hasn't decided where to make her base yet. But then there are a lot of little details, like I need to arrange for lawn maintenance and prepay utilities. It sounds like a lot of work, babe, and there's no way I can come with you. Don't you want to wait or get somebody else, hire someone? It's okay, Eric. I can handle it. You've made me feel so strong. Like I can do anything. Besides, now that James is back in jail, I feel perfectly safe. She smiled. Come on, I'll race you. Wait, Eric said. As long as you're feeling strong, there's something I do need to talk to you about. She came back, frowning. The look on his face told her whatever it wasn't a pleasant subject. Pushing a loose strand of her hair back, he cleared his throat. I spoke to Justin just this morning. When the time comes, we'll have to go to court to testify against James. He's been charged with kidnapping, attempted rape, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. And you're going to have to testify because he pleaded innocent. Innocent? How can he plead innocent? We have the DVD. Well, he can plead anything he wants to plead, and yeah, we have the DVD, but the DVD can't be the only testimony. They're going to need to hear your version of things, and mine too, and Ricky too. Shelley shook her head in disbelief. No, she stated firmly. No. She stomped her foot. There is no way he can win, and he knows it. He just wants to put me through the ordeal. Calmly, Eric took her hand. You can handle it, Shelley. We're all going to have to testify. Did you just say you feel stronger? No. I mean, yes, but no. He'll sit in the courtroom and grin at me and make me feel dirty, and he'll love every minute of it. She shuddered. Well, you're letting him into your mind. She sighed. I can't help it. I feel sick just thinking about it. I can still feel his hands on me, she said quietly as she stared out toward the ocean. I can see the hate in his eyes. She looked sadly back at Eric. He didn't have the right to do what he did. That's right, Shelley, Eric jumped in. He didn't have the right. Now, if you'll just go to court and tell the jury what happened, they'll let him know that he didn't have the right. Remember, in the courtroom, he won't be in control. You will. You can say what you like, and he can't hurt you. But what if I mess up? What if I fall apart? Oh, don't be silly. You're the strongest woman I know. Shelley closed her eyes in thought and then looked up suddenly, dreading the answer to the next question. Will they show the video? Well, not publicly, Eric answered, but the jury will have to see it, and of course, James's lawyers. Shelley shook her head. It's so embarrassing. Always have to submit myself. Ugh. I gotta go run. She jumped up and ran out the door. Eric watched her run down the beach as Ricky joined him. You think she'll be okay? Ricky asked. Yes, I do, Eric smiled. She's come a long way. Ricky frowned. You didn't tell her that they were trying to appeal the no bail decision. Yeah. Maybe I'll hold off. I mean, why worry her about something that won't happen? They won't let him out on bail once. They let him out on bail once, and he went right back to it. Well, they would be crazy to let him out again. Ricky shrugged. You know, sometimes, Dad, you sound as innocent as Shelley. He has good lawyers, top attorneys, and just as many people on his side with influence. I know, because you taught me that there are dark forces at work in this world. And they have long arms, and I don't think James getting out on bail is as far-fetched as you think. Well, maybe not, but Justin will be keeping a close eye on things, and there will be no clerical screw-ups this time. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 through 15. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it's no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. And that is the end of chapter 32.